Hey, could you come closer? Maybe a little more?
Now you're just making things uncomfortable for both of us.
Alright, that's good. That'll work. Sure. Maybe you've already guessed by us meeting in Gary's Desert, but I'm actually a skilled gamer. This completely new information I've never before disclosed may be shocking, but I assure you, there's simply no game I haven't played except this one. I am lying to you! The only video games I play are the ones made by men for men. True alphas play games with guns! I'm talking Battlefield Royale, I'm talking Call of Duty 76, and I'm especially talking Galgun 2 Special Collector's Edition VR mode with DLC. This video is for gamers only, no girls allowed. Even if they're really pretty and single, I can maybe make an exception for Katie, but I'll have to ask Mom first. If you think you have what it takes to be anywhere near as fucking tubular as I am now, then stay tuned and we'll talk about it.
I've always found it interesting to look back on the history of something, to see how it's changed and morphed over time, and video games are no exception.
You know, maybe I'm just a huge fucking nerd, but the fact that this and this came from this and this, it's just really cool.
There's so much that goes into it, not just from a technical standpoint, but from a mechanical and artistic one as well. Improvements don't have to be isolated to a single franchise, of course. Developers borrowing ideas and mechanics from one another is a pretty common thing. Take The Witcher, for example. This game is ass. For starters, pacing is non-existent. Quests have you walking from one side of the map to another just so you can fetch something, and remember, this was made in 2007, so you can't just take a straight beeline for the objective. No, you gotta trudge through a few loading screens. Gameplay pretty much consists of this, alchemy, and clicking people to watch a shitty animation play. I'm no swordist, but I don't think that characters have about as much life in their eyes as Hide the Pain Herald. The script was clearly not written by native English speakers.
Savola. I know him. A mage as ambitious as he is insane.
I've had a friend tell me that this game is worth revisiting purely for the story, but when the interactions are laughable and the gameplay is dog shit, where's the motivation?
Fast forward about 10 years and
It's a lot better. Pacing is fantastic. Combat, dialogue, and exploration share just enough time with one another to stay fresh. Combat is fast, intricate, and it feels really satisfying when you get it right. Like, you know when you have one of those car keys and you flick it out like a blade? The visuals are stupidly good. The animation is so fucking amazing that even the automated stuff feels dynamic and meaningful, which, fun fact, is actually impossible to do. So I must assume this was achieved through black magic. Yeah. Witcher 3 is a shining example of how to take a good idea with bad execution and give it the technology and budget that it needs and launch it into the fucking stratosphere. Play this game. So why am I telling you all this? I see a lot of people use things like added features or better graphics as benchmarks for improvement, but less obvious things like pacing or level design or game feel are mentioned far less often. IGN, why do your reviews list gameplay as one of only 5 major aspects of a game, and why is sound listed as equally important? There's a lot that goes into what makes a game fun, and these aspects should all be considered in the context of how they impact the experience as a whole. So bearing this in mind, let's see how these two games stack up. Recently, I've started playing Super Metroid, which I don't think needs an introduction unless you look like this or this. Let me just say right off the bat, this game is 5 years older than I am, and tempted as I may be to say this game is old and therefore gay, it's amazing how good it feels, even today. Nowadays, AAA titles feel outdated within 3 years of release, but this is aged like a it probably wouldn't hold up as well as it did if it weren't for the fact that its design was years ahead of its time. Non-linearity is handled with more grace than a lot of modern titles. Each zone feels different from the last, there's tons of hidden stuff to discover, and you want to explore the game. Its dark, alien atmosphere sucks you in and keeps you on the edge of your seat. How they managed to do that with a fucking SNES machine, I will never know. It's a bunch of fucking squares, and the music sounds like... Pretty much every game up until like 2001 is just plagued by technical limitations, not to mention, around this time, video games were only just starting to barely understand how to be. Now, especially after taking all of that into consideration, the fact that this game is as good as it is and feels as good as it does after this long is just mind-blowing. Is it perfect? Fuck no. Let's talk about bullshit. I remember watching Donkey tear Metroid Fusion apart and feeling skeptical. There is no way it is that cryptic that often. He said naively before probably masturbating or something. But I could not get 20 minutes in without some seemingly insurmountable obstacle. This is a dead end. There's no way around it. And it only gets worse from there. Let me show you the optimal way to play any Metroid game. You get your emulator, because Nintendo still hasn't brought the fucking virtual console to the Switch. You grab your controller, you pull out your laptop, bring up YouTube, maybe type in Metroid walkthrough to save yourself some time. Now grab your phone, pull up the most detailed walkthrough you can, because YouTube will not have all the answers. You then go back to the laptop. You'll then need to acquire a copy of the 29th volume. You will need to learn every zone, every level, every route as something specifically engineered to halt the player's fun and bring the momentum down to 0. Why do I gotta have a walkthrough where, God forbid, back in the day, a friend subscribed to Nintendo Power just to beat your stupid fucking, otherwise really good game? It isn't a good way of making your player feel like they're discovering something, and it isn't a good way of extending your game time either, because I can guarantee you that a number of your players are just going to end up lost, confused, backtracking for like 30 minutes, and then giving up. You'll say, where do I go? What do I do? What is my goal? I don't know, the map doesn't let me set markers, so I'm probably lost. I could be missing an ability. I'm too low on ammo, I guess. Or, maybe I just didn't bomb the right into fucking extinguishable square tile. This is horrid game design. I don't understand why people are so willing to forgive it, so reluctant to even mention it. Look, if we're talking about extras that are helpful, this sort of thing is fine, but powers required in order to further progress shouldn't have me frequently stumped and forced to figure shit out on a fucking Are you fucking— Okay, so other games have tried to address this problem in various ways, from more linear level design to just kind of holding your hand a bit, and that's fine. I mean, Metroid itself has taken part in both methods. However, I don't think these are necessarily the most elegant ways of fixing the problem. I think Ford Raptor, who you may know better nowadays as Arnold Handsome, said it best. The more hand-holding a game becomes, the more it guides you through its world with specific things to do and marks on a map and a sequence of which things to do and specific instructions, the less it feels like discovering a world, and the more it feels like being taken on a tour. You're no longer a pioneer adventurer, you're a guest at Disneyland. Alright, I'm done. So, if we want to maintain that feeling of exploration without including the bullshit that comes with it, but we don't want to rely on linearity or specificity, how do we do it? This is it. This is the perfect blend of non-linear design and progression that still feels fair. There are some really clear inspirations from titles like Super Metroid, Symphony of the Night, and the greatest aspects of Hollow Knight's inspirations are visible throughout, but it does this without inheriting their downsides. From Metroid and Castlevania, you have the tight controls, the level design, the pacing, the enemies, the music, and from Dark Souls, you have the— Okay. Okay. Cool. Shit. Are you goddamn fuck? The boss battles, combat, and death mechanics, among other things. Progression takes center stage here. You start out pretty good, you're there, but by the late game, you can just— Finding new abilities unlocks new areas, but these blocks are always made apparent, and taking another route is easy. There's a perfect balance struck between letting the player figure things out and explore their own way, and guiding the player to where they need to go. Roadblocks are more like this, and less like this.
Are you fucking kidding me? This is the stupidest—
So already, buy the fucking game, but then, there are the things that it does well on its own merit. At think I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't take a moment to talk about how atmospherically beautiful this game is. I'm not talking pretty in the way every AAA game is nice to look at. Don't get me wrong, cutting-edge graphics are great, but Hollow Knight has a consistent personality to it. It's mostly depressing as shit, but it never feels like too much. As the art style would imply, once you look past the dreary setting, there's a lot of lighthearted humor in there as well. People who dislike the cinematic storytelling I've defended previously will love Hollow Knight for its largely passive approach. Traditional character interaction takes a bit of a backseat to environmental storytelling. So much can be inferred without a word being spoken. There is a shit ton of backstory hidden away, but if you're not interested or not paying attention, it's super easy to miss it. And that's great. When you got 14 quintillion people and 100 executives all working on the same game, it can end up feeling lifeless and samey. But here, every element, art, mechanics, lore, sound, it's all perfectly synced. And the effect is that the world of Hollow Knight feels realized. It feels grounded and fleshed out. Every tunnel, every crevice, every dark corner has something new for the player to discover. Things can happen while you're not there to see them. Seemingly mindless interactions can come back to haunt you as you progress. And it's all perfectly complemented by some of the best music and art I've heard and seen in any game. What? That's not doing it for you?
No, that's pussy shit. I wanna fight. I'm a man.
All right, then I'll put on a fucking hard song. I'm no music major, but come on. Of all the games I've played this year, Hollow Knight might just be my favorite yet. It's up there with Galgun. It's a testament to just how much can be done with two passionate people, a shared idea born from a terrible game jam, and $40,000 plus that was a lot of game sales, holy shit. Hollow Knight's been out for like a year now. Team Cherry has released 3 DLC-sized updates, including last week's Gods and Glory, for free. It's already on PC and Switch, and it'll be on PS4 and Xbox One on the 25th. I've sunk over 50 hours into this game easy, and I'm nowhere near beating it. And it's 15 bucks. 10 on Humble Bundle. There's never been a better time to pick this thing up. So what you need to do right now is you need to take out your wallet. What do you take this credit card? Add 20 copies or so. Just load it on. Send them to all your friends. Click buy. There you go. And it's as simple as that.
More animation coming soon.